Well, let's cross now to Brisbane, where we find the opposition leader, Peter Dutton. He joins me now. Peter, thank you so much for your time. The Prime Minister has accused you of running a scare campaign over the way in which the government are approving visas for Palestinians. Sharri Markson revealed last night on her show that some who had already arrived were engaging in some fairly concerning conduct online regarding support of Hamas. Are you confident the right kind of people are coming into Australia?
Well, Erin, on all of these issues, whether it's 149 criminals being released from jail, whether it's the boat that got through without the Prime Minister knowing anything about it, it's the ute tax, it's this issue, I think he has a problem with the truth because he just says things that blatantly are not true. And the fact is that the government has brought people in from a war zone in record time, I don't believe with requisite checks. And the onus is on the government to explain what checks they have or haven't done so that they can provide assurance that more people haven't got through that are of a similar character as Sharri pointed out last night. And I think too the government needs to respond to these individual cases and give us an assurance that, that these people won't be staying here permanently.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like the PM is still in opposition mode since he's not really taking much ownership. He says the government should not be held to account for the dozens of asylum seekers who arrived over the weekend, saying it's an unfortunate event but not his fault. What do you make of that?
But Philip Ruddock, I remember way back in the day, used to talk about, and I think the Indonesians at the time used to talk about Australia putting the sugar on the table. If you say to people smugglers, we've got a product, the policy's changed, they will just take it with both hands. And what we've seen from this government is a softening of the Operation Sovereign Borders compact. They've abolished temporary protection visas, which was a key element to Operation Sovereign Borders. And yet the Prime Minister looks the Australian public in the eye and says, oh, we haven't changed Operation Sovereign Borders. It's just as it operated under the coalition. It's just not true. And then you've got the release of these 149 criminals. The people smugglers would have been licking their lips. And it's the most remarkable thing that I've seen. The Prime Minister is in denial about the problem that he's created. And this is the consequence when you don't take our border protection policy seriously.
Yeah, you make such a good point about social media and the little bits that can be used. My dad, Erin Molan, was obviously a big part of developing Operation Sovereign Borders. And I tell you what, he waxed lyrical about going to different countries around the world and how they sold this dream to poor, desperate people. One little thing, 3 seconds was all it took. I'm just blown away by the fact that the PM decided to attack you for calling out their weakness and say that was going to be used by people smugglers, not the fact that a boat got through.
It's just bizarre. And you're right, Jim was a very significant contributor and architect to the success of Operation Sovereign Borders. And we've now got a government that, again, if you look at the Prime Minister, it's not just now, but it's for decades. The guy hasn't changed his spots.
Just finally on this issue, I want to ask you about when the PM knew. And we were live on air last week when this was all developing. And I said on air I could not believe that a department knew, but the PM did not, something as serious as this. And I said, gosh, if they were my staff, I'd be absolutely furious. Reports around today that maybe his staff or the department knew as early as Monday. Would you expect your staff or you to be across an issue as significant as this, regardless of where you were travelling or how?
Of course you do. I mean, this is a very significant embarrassment for the government. It's a breach of our northwestern border. And it's a catastrophic failure of the government's version of Operation Sovereign Borders, the watered-down version. And the Prime Minister came up with this dodgy line, oh, look, I couldn't get a briefing because, I was travelling in the car. I don't know what that means. I mean, he didn't have his mobile phone with him, or his advisor who would have been in the car with him didn't have his or her mobile phone with them. It doesn't hold water. I think Australians are now starting to get a real understanding of who Anthony Albanese is, and that's why his numbers are tanking.